Pedro, it is time for the video. Here's some banana. Nom, 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 nom. Tea time, thoughts. Hey guys, welcome back to another Tea Time Thoughts. Today I wanted to talk to you about a really hilarious book called The 1,000 Nights and One Night. So have you ever seen Aladdin or Alibaba and the 40 Thieves? Those stories actually come from this collection of Arabian stories that came during like the golden age of Islam. But there's many authors and from many places, and it's got love, it's got fighting, it's got like jinn or like spirits that live among us, all kinds of crazy stuff. While I usually read like self-help or like spiritual stuff or that kind of thing, this just reminded me that reading can just be fun. Okay, here's my warning about this book. It's from another time. It's from like basically a Renaissance period in Islam where people were like really open to knowledge and like they were, translating stuff from Greek, from Aristotle and those guys to preserve that knowledge. And so it was very open. I'm sure some Muslims out there probably would never touch this and would call it probably heretical. But what's cool about it is that it's set in the universe of the Abrahamic faiths, right? Like basically our universe. But what that means is that there is definitely a God. There are definitely jinn or spirits. All the prophets existed. David spoke to animals. Solomon had like control over the jinn and wind. So that kind of leads to interesting stories, like people who can understand animals and encounters with these jinn along the road. And it's also kind of, it's not very politically correct. My experience with this is that when I read it, number one, I was thoroughly entertained. But number two, it's just outlandish, bro. There's like just some wild stuff that happens in this book. And I think that the premise of the book is really, really cool. And I think it would just be fun if I like tried to summarize the first story. By the way, the book begins like, praise be to Allah, master of the universe. Yo, I almost forgot that this is Tea Time Thoughts. So what I got here is a tea called 24K by Plenty. Nourish and replenish our bodies and soul, glow from the inside out. It has a really fresh lemony scent. Hey man, don't forget to drink some tea. It's like got antioxidants, which is good for your brain and make you smarter. Some caffeine. And it's like a simple luxury. Like treat yourself, If you like tea, tell me what you're drinking. I want to know. These are stories for people of our time to learn morals from so we don't go astray. That's basically what it's saying. Okay. The tale of King Shahryar and of his brother, King Shahsaman. The first story starts off with a king who has two sons somewhere in along the Isles of India and China, and one of the boys is large. That's literally what it says. His name is Shahryar, and he has a small brother named Shahsaman. They rule like in nearby kingdoms, let's call them. So one day, the tall brother, King Shahryar, decides he's going to go visit his other brother. So he gets all of his soldiers, he gets his wazir, which is like his counselor, and he gets everyone ready to go, right? So they all start moving out, and then out of nowhere, he forgets something. So he goes back, and it was in his room, of course. So he goes back into his room, and he basically finds his wife stretched on her bed and being embraced by a black slave. Don't look at me like that. Okay, I don't know why they're saying black slave here. But I think there may have been rumors of the virility of the black men, and like that's everywhere. And so, you know, big feet or something. He kills both of them. This is page 1. We already have 2 murders here. All right. And then, of course, after he kills his wife and the servant, he's like, okay, we're still going to my brother. So they go. When King Shahryar arrives at his brother's place, the king is super embarrassed and doesn't want to talk about his shame here. So anyways, his brother decides, okay, I'm going to go out for like a little hunt, and I'll be back in no time. As soon as the other brother leaves, that brother's wife gathers all the servants in like the castle and like just has like a massive
haram
with all of them. This is page 2. So when the first brother sees this, he's like, I guess things are not so bad for me. Like, my wife just has
haram
one servant. My brother's wife is making love to all of her servants. So anyways, the brother gets back from the hunting, and of course, king number 1, Shahryar, goes up to him. He's like, you won't believe what happened when you went out to hunt. He tells him, but the other brother, King Shah Saman, doesn't really believe him. So they hatch a plot that they're gonna like expose what happened. So he tells him, make it appear that you've gone out on a hunt, but stay with me in this room, and then you can bear witness to what's going on, and then you can go from there. Okay, so it barely isn't even an hour that's gone by, and the wife like goes to the garden and gets both male and female servants to do their thing, and the king is outraged, of course. Both of them are pretty defeated. They basically go on a journey. Okay, then they come up to a river, and a huge column of black smoke just like erupts from the river, right? And it's basically like a jinn of great size with a box on his head, okay? Like a chest. The jinn with the huge box on his head comes out of the water, and he rests the chest on the, I guess, the beach or whatever it is, like, and a really beautiful woman comes out of it.
haram.
The jinn speaks. He says, "O queen of every silky thing, O you whom I ravished away upon your bridal night, I would sleep a little." And basically he goes to sleep. Then out of nowhere, the girl in the box is like, "Hey, you two," because the jinn obviously didn't see them. She's like, "Come here, or I'm gonna get this ifrit to kill you." This is
haram.
This next part is wild. Then the girl goes, "Come, pierce me violently with your lances." Yes, it is what you're thinking about. So then they have like a debate about who should go first, and then they both like do their thing. So once the deed is done, she tells both kings, "Give me your seal ring." Alright, then she takes the rings and adds it to a necklace she has that already has 570 seal rings on it. Okay, then she goes on to like this revenge rant. This jinn took me on my wedding night and imprisoned me in a coffer, placed that coffer in a box and fastened about the box 7 chains, and then laid me at the bottom of the moaning sea that wars and dashes with its waves. Whenever the jinn is sleeping, she's like getting revenge by basically making love with like wandering men. If this jinn, with all of his power, can't keep a woman like loyal, and who can. And then they both feel better about their situations. It's at this point where things get even darker. This is page 5. Okay, so having lost all faith in women, okay, King Shahryar goes to his city. He orders his wazir to bring a new virgin every single night. He'll ravish the girl and then have her killed. Until one day, the wazir goes out to find a virgin for the king, and he can no longer find it, because I guess he's basically killed everybody. One of the wazir's daughters becomes aware of what the king is doing, and she tells her father that you should marry me to the king instead. And this is kind of where we get the whole premise of the collection of stories here, the 1001 Night collection. So the daughter's name is Scheherazade, and she's got a plan. After it's all done, she says, "Can you get my sister? I want to hear one of your stories one last time." So then she says, if the king is okay with it, I'll gladly tell you one last story. And then she tells basically the first official story of this book. Her sister goes, "Oh my God, what a beautiful story. Yeah, your words are sweet and gentle and pleasant to the taste." So Scheherazade answers, "That was nothing. The stories I would have told you tomorrow would have been even more marvelous and more magical and even sweeter. Only the king would spare me." And of course the king falls for it. And that's basically how Scheherazade keeps living every night with this king. The next day, the king is going to come. She's going to finish the first story and then start the second story until about 3/4 through. Then she's going to knock out. And the king is just going to be like, "I can't kill her until I hear the rest of the story." And the same thing happens over and over. But every story is just really funny and entertaining. This book just reminded me that reading can be fun. Sometimes with all the self-help and the spiritual stuff, it's like, kind of feels like work at times, but this book is just hilarious, and there's lots of epic fiction out there. I would love to know what books you love to read, and is there a book out there that makes you like love it, and just really want to keep reading? Tell me about it. I'd love to hear it. Do me a favor and hit subscribe, and I'll be back with more content. Peace.